Hey y'all. Hey, welcome. Today is Thursday, August 27th, and we are going to get in today's episode of Beyond the Gates. Now, I'm on my little hooded blanket today because today has been crazy already. But first, let me make sure my audio is working before we get into this because they got me over the weekend and I am not dealing with it again. How about that? So let me just make sure it's working. Sounds like it's good. So let's get into it. Uh-huh. 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 So let me pull up my little handy dandy notes and we can get right into it. So we open with Naomi and Jacob. They're at their homes, great, whatever. And Jacob is finding out how Bill is back in the office. And Jacob is like, is that really a good idea? But, Naomi's headed there now. And Jacob's just like, yeah, Bill just got out of the hospital. What is going on? So then we see June at Bill's firm. I feel like this is the first time we've ever seen June there. But she is there. She's looking for Naomi, and Bill is there, and he is very, very nice to June. It was nice to see. He's like, well, Naomi's on her way here, but I can listen to whatever you need to talk about. And June is talking about how she has a friend. I think the friend's name is Lucy, and she's having some type of issue. And so June is just like, I can't afford you, Bill, but Bill offers a free consultation and he says he is there for June and her friend. So that was very nice and very not what you would think of Bill, but whatever. So then next we see Ted and Carlton at the hospital. Carlton, they bump into each other and Ted notices how Carlton has this little pep in his step because we know he has had a moment with this other woman after they met up at the bar yesterday. So Carlton is just floating through this hospital today, okay? And Toby's like, oh, I noticed your new disposition. And so Carlton talks about how he expanded his horizons and that he was slayed by a siren. And then Nicole walks up and Carlton basically excuses himself and he goes skipping on off to wherever he needs to be. And then Nicole is asking Ted, well, what did I interrupt? Why? Mind your business or whatever. So next we see Izaiah and Eva at Eva's house and they're starting their day and she's surprised that, Izaiah's not telling her how to feel her feelings anymore and this and that. And he is basically reining in his never-ending optimism because he's been like coddling Eva after this liver transplant and Eva's been feeling a little suffocated in that regard, even though she's very grateful and thankful for what Izaiah has been doing to take care of her. She's just like, you're doing a little too much. So Izaiah is finally listening and he is not helicoptering her too much. And so Eva's on her way to the gym and he's just still, he's restraining himself, but he's still telling her to be careful. And she's like, what? It's 2-pound weights and gray-haired ladies. But Izaiah's just, he wants his boo to be safe and he tells her to have a good class and Eva's like, oh, but not too much. And Isaiah's just like, lips sealed. Love them together. They're my favorite couple on this show, which is why today perturbed me so much, but we'll get into that. So then next we see Tomas and Kat. They're having breakfast at the club, just catching up. Things have been a little weird between Tomas and Kat ever since she turned down this proposal. So they are just catching up, like I said, and Kat brings up Naomi, and Tomas hopes that now that Bill is back, that Naomi will pull back a bit because Tomas is convinced that Naomi is basically gunning for his position. Whatever. That whole thing is so stupid. For those who don't know, Naomi is the daughter of Bill and Bill owns the firm. Tomas has been working very hard to be a partner, but nepotism, it's a thing. Naomi has been kind of brought in the mix to help out since Bill was recently hospitalized. And Tomas is threatened by her. So he and Naomi have been going back and forth for the last few weeks. And, Tomas is just in his feelings about it. And so they keep chatting, and he's just hoping Naomi will pull back a bit because Bill is back. Now, Kat does think Tomas was out of line with the mic meeting that happened last week because he completely undermined Naomi to her face and in front of this opposing counsel, which was like, no. And Tomas actually went to Kat to try to talk to Naomi on his behalf and smooth things over. And Kat was like, no, once again. And I agree with that. But, Tomas is like, okay, well, we're not going to talk about it too much, but I really need to plead my case. And I thought I was doing good with trying to handle that Madison trial, but it backfired basically, blah, blah, blah. So then Kat gets a text. She has to leave for a meeting with Nicole because she's been trying to get on her mother's very busy schedule for a while. And Nicole had an opening. But Tomas is like, no, mamita, can you please stay? Can you stay with me? Can you push your meeting later? Now, Kat was like, every time you need to go do something for the firm, that's fine. And I let you do that. I need to do this for me. So no. And she gives Tomas a little kiss on his head and she heads out. And Tomas is just sad that he is not going to get to have his locks and caviar with his boo. But okay, he's just left at the table and he looks sad. Okay. So then we go back to Bill's office. Bill is consulting June for free. Once again, the friend's name is Lucy. She's dealing with a rent increase. Now, this got me because I understand this wholeheartedly. Now, in this story, Lucy has a son who is autistic. So do I, and I get it. And June is worried that Lucy is not going to be able to afford her rent, which would mean she would have to move home and schools for her son. And June was like, the boy has autism. He does not handle change well. And she's worried how he will react to losing the house and having to change schools. Again, I am the mother of an autistic child, and that is 100% facts. It is very difficult to juggle all of that, especially schooling and just the things that we think is normal and things that we would pivot on very quickly. Autistic people do not. So that was a real moment for me. And this is why I love June down. Anyway, so they're still talking about that. And it turns out the person who owns Lucy's place of residence is someone who owns Vaughn Holdings. And Bill says, oh, well, I actually know that owner. And, he's a hard ass and this and that. And June thinks Lucy just doesn't stand a chance. But Bill takes the time to take on the case. He tells June that you are the mother of Tyrell and Samantha, and he is very happy to do this favor for her. And Bill seems very happy. I'm like, look at Bill being a good person. I mean, Bill's not terrible, but he definitely has a reputation. And I wasn't anticipating him being this nice and kind to June. So I really like seeing that. And it looks like it made Bill feel good to be able to do something for someone else. So I'm like, okay, Bill, okay. So then next we are back at Jacob and Naomi's house. She's going to handle Bill, being back. Naomi is trying to have everything under control. She's been stepping up while Bill has been sick, but she just goes on to say that if Ailey, Bill's wife, had a lick of sense, Bill would not be back in this office. And you know what? Naomi was like, actually, I'm pissed about all of this because Jacob was like, you don't seem to be handling this okay. And Naomi was like, actually, I'm mad. Bill should have himself at home. And then Jacob just reminds Naomi that Bill is stubborn as hell, and that clearly runs in the family because she said it as well. And Naomi was like, she's going to recite the serenity prayer in the car on the way, and she hopes that her daddy will listen to reason, but he has not listened to reason so far. So good luck, Naomi. So Next, we see Nicole sees Ted again, and Ted does not want to divulge what he and Carlton were talking about or gossiping about. That's what Nicole said they were doing, gossiping like some little teenagers. But okay, whatever. Fine. He's like homies over hoes, basically. He's not going to tell Carlton's business, even though Carlton was previously dating Nicole, and Nicole was previously married to Teddy. Yes, it's messy. Stay with me. So then Nicole asked Ted if everything is okay with Kat, because Kat has been trying to meet up with Nicole, and Nicole doesn't know why, because Kat won't tell her. So Nicole's a little nervous or whatever, and she thinks it could be about Tomas. And then Nicole says, like, I don't hate Tomas, but I'm a tad enthusiastic about him since he slept with two sisters. Because last year, Eva and Kat both had Tomas. And so Ted agrees. He is not thrilled about that as well, but they've been letting Kat handle the situation so far. And so, next we see Tomas still sulking at that little country club table, moving his little leftovers around on his plate. He looks like somebody stole his puppy. Now, Eva is there to do her little workout, which was approved by her doctors, and she walks by the opening and she sees him. And of course, she has to go and talk to him. Not on some like weirdo stuff, because Eva has been very good about the boundaries. She's been very good about keeping Tomas at arm's length and respecting her relationship and respecting Kat's relationship with Tomas. But she considers Tomas a friend, and so she does not like to see him upset. And so she walks in and she basically offers a listening ear to Tomas. She was like, unless Kat is on her way. And Tomas was like, you don't have to worry about that. She's long gone. He's so sad. Whatever. I don't care. He's getting what he deserves. Anyway, Izaiah and Jacob are at Orphe Jeans, and June arrives, and she's just catching up, talking about that handsome, what's their name? Jacob Hawthorne, the handsome Hawthorne men, which they are. And so she's just saying how she just had a good morning and how someone's going to do a favor for her. She doesn't go into details. And then she goes off to check on their food because she's there to work. And then Jacob's just talking about Eva. He's happy to hear that she's doing so well. He and Izaiah have had other conversations about dealing with strong women because, again, Izaiah was coddling too much, and he was like basically being like a helicopter mom to Eva, and she was sick of that. And Jacob was just telling Izaiah that strong women don't like being told what to do, basically, and how to feel. So Isaiah's been taking that advice. He even said Darlene, their mother, has been giving him good advice as well. And Jacob was like, whoa, mom must be coming around, because Darlene was not here for Eva whatsoever because of Eva's mom. But after this liver transplant thing and Izaiah also putting Darlene in her place, Darlene has come around and she has not been mean or rude to Eva anymore. And she's actually been supportive. So good for Darlene, because I was about to have a problem with her. And so Jacob agrees. He's like, ooh, mom has come a long way. But Izaiah thinks Darlene is just expecting a favor in return. And that's true, because Darlene has been trying to get Izaiah to come back home for Sunday dinner ever since he re-entered Fairmont Crest. So Izaiah is convinced that this is what his mama wants. And he could be right. What do y'all think? Feel free to drop some comments in the chat. I won't bite, I promise. So then Nicole and Kat finally meet up at Nicole's hospital office, and Nicole is talking about how she and Kyle are in that googly eyes phase because Nicole has officially picked Kyle as her man, her man, her man. And I am so happy for it. And her and Kyle went to the Nationals baseball game the night before and this and that. And Kat is very happy to hear this. She is pleased her mother is happy and moving on. And I am sure Kat is very happy that nasty Nikki has been put in a box because she was tired of her mama being out here in these Fairmont Crest streets. But Nicole is settling down. Kat is happy. So then Nicole wants to know, like, what's going on with Kat. And Kat mentions how Tomas really stepped in it the other day with Naomi. And that is absolutely the truth. So then we are back to Tomas and Eva at the country club, and Tomas is just talking to Eva about not outranking the prodigal daughter who is Naomi. Like, Tomas is really pissing me off with this. But I mean, I get it. But you know the game, and just hush. And so he thinks Naomi seems to be overwhelmed and she's being evasive. And, you know, Eva thinks that this is all understandable with everything Naomi has been dealing with and juggling. But Tomas talks about, you know, he's worried about things falling through the cracks because Naomi might be overwhelmed. And he's just talking about how, you know, if there are failures, Naomi will not be the one taking the heat. And Tomas talks about his former efforts and just how he tried to handle or help with the Madison situation and this and that. But Naomi went to daddy to complain. And Eva thinks, you know, working it out between Naomi and Tomas would have been the better option. And Tomas agrees. I don't agree because Tomas was absolutely out of line and he needed to be checked, but whatever. So Tomas thinks that Naomi trumps all of the efforts that he's been putting in at the firm. And he also said the Hamiltons think respect should only flow in one direction, and that is up. Well, Tomas, how do you really feel? But, you know, Tomas is happy that Bill has recovered quickly, and because Tomas just didn't know how much longer he could continue dealing with the current situation. He is such a crybaby. Anyways, so Naomi arrives at Bill's office, aka her office in the future, and she just starts laying in on Bill. She's gentle because she doesn't want to like upset him or anything. She doesn't want to spike his blood pressure. But she's like, you absolutely did not have to come into this office, Dad. You have a beautiful home office that is nice and quiet and stress free. And you know, I don't want to spike your pressure. And so I'm not going to keep going on about it. And Bill just wants to get caught up on their cases. He's paying Naomi dust about it. He's like, I'm comfortable here. I have everything I need. And oh, by the way, I want to fill you in, Naomi, on our most recent case. And Naomi's like, what? So then Eva and Tomas, Eva is sorry that things have been so difficult for Tomas, and Tomas said he needed to just double down and show his loyalty to the firm. And Eva's just like, man, you got to jump through hoops for all of this. And have you ever considered other opportunities? And Tomas mentions how he did interview with another firm, which he did, and they were interested, but Bill talked him out of it. And Eva was like, just, you know, just letting him talk and listen to everything he said. And Bill convinced him to stay. And Eva asked if, you know, could Kat smooth things out on your behalf? And Tomas was like, been there, done that, and no. Kat already told me no. And Eva thinks it's wrong that Kat sided with the family, but she agrees she's going to keep her mouth shut. Now, Eva, you my girl. I love you down, but I don't think you saw all of the things that happened with Tomas, and this advice I do not agree with as a viewer who saw all of the pieces. And sometimes people have to be checked. And Tomas has been a habitual line stepper at this point, and he needed to be put in his place. But I get it, Eva. You and Tomas are friends, and I mean, they're not being inappropriate. I just don't personally believe that you can be friends with someone that you have with because you're no longer friends. But that's my opinion. So Kat is just doing a great job of listening to Tomas's many, many complaints. So then Kat is telling Nicole about the Tomas and Naomi of it all. And Kat explains, she's like, I tried to explain to Tomas how it came off in that he was undermining Naomi in front of the client, Madison, and the opposing client, the opposing counsel, which was not a good look. And Nicole was like, yeah, and Bill does not play about his daughters, and Tomas won't soon forget that. And I agree. So then the real reason that Kat has come to visit Nicole is revealed. Kat and Chelsea are getting ready to go to Tokyo for a fashion show, I believe, where Chelsea Kat is being featured. And Kat has been working on this prototype. She and Chelsea want to reveal another bag, and they wanted to basically honor Nicole. And she shows Nicole the rendering for it. And Nicole's like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. Like, you guys really hit it out of the park with this. And that's when Kat says they want to name the bag after Nicole. More on that later. So then Ted and Carlton continue to gossip about Carlton's wild night with a new woman because they are back to being besties. Couldn't be me. You go after my husband, we can't be friends anymore. But you like it, I love it, Ted. So they are back on track, and Carlton was just talking about how it was so great, and it was the best night he's had in a while or ever. Okay, Heather. Anyways, and then he's like, he doubts he'll ever see his temptress again. And Carlton didn't even get this woman's name. My God, today. But whatever. So Carlton thoroughly enjoyed his night with this mystery woman, and Ted is just dapping him up and just loving everything that he's hearing. Okay, Ted. So then back at the law firm, Bill tells Naomi about Jude's case, and Naomi wonders if Bill put this together. Was this a plot set up by Todd? She wonders if Bill arrange this so he can have an excuse to work with Naomi. And Bill was like, I do have a heart despite it going out the other day. And Naomi was like, I don't like it when you joke about your heart like that. But Bill was like, look, I beat it and I have a sense of humor. So whatever, let me have this. But then he is just talking about how he feels like they're going to have to force Bond's owner's hand in this case. And he thinks Naomi is the perfect fit to help with the case and that they would be really good in working on this together. But so Naomi listens and she's like, you know what? I will take on this case, but I'm going to take it on by myself. And Bill, Dad, you don't have to be involved. And Bill was so sad. So Bill continues to refute this. He wants to work with Naomi. And, she thinks he should cut back on his workload after everything that he just experienced. And she's not wrong, but Bill is not trying to hear any of it. And Bill is like, I'm fine. And Naomi's worried about the stress. And Bill said, what stress? And Naomi said, you damn near had a stroke during Madison's deposition. But, whatever. But Bill says, this is the best chance for June's friend. And this appeals to Naomi. And she's like, you know what? I just hate it when you're right. And Bill's like, So she officially agrees to partner up with her daddy on this case. So then back at Orphe Jean's, Jacob asks, why is Izaiah nervous to bring Eva to Sunday dinner? Because Izaiah kind of mentioned that. And Izaiah says, or Jacob's fishing to see Mom, Darlene seems to be on board with it now. Are you worried about Elon? Because Elon and Izaiah had a bad relationship for many, many years, and they are slowly working on reconciliation. And Jacob thinks that Elon genuinely wants things to be different between him and Izaiah, but Izaiah admits that he is mostly worried about himself because something about his family home just transports him right back to being 16, where he was pissed off all the time and defensive. And it's one thing for Eva to hear about who he used to be because, of course, he's told Eva, but he thinks it's another for her to potentially see it, and that's what's worrying him. But Jacob just tells him, that Izaiah has grown up, and Jacob and the rest of the family all recognize that, especially Elon. And Jacob asks that they just basically try to break old patterns. The parents are committing to that, and Jacob wants Izaiah to do the same. So then Eva and Tomas are still chatting, and they agree to stop talking about Kat because Eva does not agree with Kat's methods, and she feels like Kat should have sided with her man against Naomi in this situation. Again, I do not agree, but whatever. So then Tomas asks Kat, how are things going with Izaiah? Because when I last saw you, it seemed like Izaiah was taking really good care of you and this and that. Eva says he is the absolute best. He's taking such good care of me. And that he's not the type to bail when there's a problem. And so Tomas is happy to hear this for Eva, and he and her decide to, Tomas has to go on about his business, and he's about to head out. So he and Eva hug. He's very happy that Eva is happy. And this hug that Tomas gave Eva told me that I think he wants to be back with Eva because Tomas is, I don't think he and Kat are a good match. Tomas clearly needs something different than what Kat can provide. And Tomas thanks Eva for believing in him and supporting him. And when he hugged Eva, he was smelling her hair. He was taking it all in. And I was like, Tomas wants to get back with Eva. But okay, because Tomas needs that type of support from his woman, and he is not going to get that from Kat. I think Kat wants to be that for him, but she doesn't know how. And things are just super awkward after the proposal attempt, so whatever. But yes, Tomas was just all in Eva's hair. I was like, weird. Okay. And, it's just clear to me that he wants somebody to have his back. And he feels like Kat does not have his back. So, back to Nicole's office. She does not want this bag to be named Nikki. Because Nikki is the nickname that Leslie gave her. And Nicole hates that woman. And she was like, no, ma'am. As Kat continues to try to convince her, she's like, are you really going to let this woman have this much power over you? And Kat says they can change the meaning of the name. They can change the whack original meaning to something else. And Nicole is like, thanks, but no thanks. She said, if you want to call it bad bitch in my honor or something like that, go right ahead. But Nikki is like nails on a chalkboard and she will not have it. So, and Nicole also says, well, if you would have come to me first instead of running to Izaiah for his input, I could have saved you some time, basically. And Kat's like, well, Izaiah was just trying to help and this and that. And so Nicole starts questioning things because I have questions too. She's like, oh, you and Izaiah are friends now? And Kat's like, not really right now with him being joined at the hip with Eva, but maybe after he dumps her. And Nicole was like, have you had any inclination of him getting ready to dump Eva? And Kat's like, no, but her personality, as if Kat's personality is so freaking great. I cannot stand this character. But whatever, she deflects a little bit, but no one can tell me that she is not plotting on Izaiah, whether it is consciously or subconsciously at this point, because I have not liked her interactions with Izaiah for a while because I'm Team Eva in that regard. Anyway, so Jacob and Izaiah continue to talk at Orphe Jeans. They're just talking about Luke, that's their other brother, who has done a better job of handling Elon than Izaiah. Izaiah gave him props because he was like, you know, he did what dad wanted him to do, but then he pulled the okie doke and moved to Detroit, and he's completely off the radar. And Jacob's like, yeah, that's real middle kid energy, blah, blah, blah. So then they're still chatting, and Kat happens to join them at the table. First, she's thanking Jacob for taking her concerns about Allison very seriously, because Jacob did put in a call to see where Allison was. And so during this conversation, it is revealed that Allison indeed had a burner phone. And because of Kat's concerns, they found it. Now, beyond the gate, why didn't they show Allison's room being raided? Why did we not find the phone so we can, you know, basically confirm Chelsea and Kat's suspicions? That was a little crazy to me. The only thing we saw from Allison was just her sitting at her desk in her cell, writing letter after letter to her love, Chelsea, but we never saw the confirmation that it was her making these crazy calls. So that was weird to me, that we just got this little bit of information by happenstance. But whatever. Jacob also thanks Kat for just asking him to look into it first, and for her not doing her usual PI work. So then Izaiah was joking about Kat building a case, and Jacob is like, do not encourage her. So then he gets a call and he has to leave, and Kat and Izaiah are left alone. Yeah, okay. So then at the hospital, Ted checks back in with Nicole on Kat, because he's just like, oh, did you ever talk to Kat and what was going on? And so Nicole just tells Ted about the upcoming Tokyo trip, and that's basically what she and Kat talked about. And Nicole also says, oh, you know, can you come in my office for a little bit? I've been thinking about the earlier conversation I saw with you and you and Carlton. And of course, Nicole thinks they were talking about her. And so, and she said, as Carlton's friend, Ted, do you think I should reach out to Carlton just to make sure he's doing all right after I moved on with Kyle? And Ted was like, trust me, Carlton is doing just fine. So then Naomi and Bill are still working together in the office, and Tomas enters, and he is nice. He's cheerful. He says hello to Naomi. She says hi back. And Tomas is like, welcome back, Bill. I'm so happy that you're back, and I'm here for my meeting. You know, we had one scheduled. And Bill is just not really thrilled to see Tomas. He's still probably pissed about him undermining Naomi. And Bill is just like, oh, yeah, that meeting. Let's push it back a little bit because I'm working with Naomi on our new case. And Tomas says, okay. He just sulks out and he's behind that door. You can tell Tomas I think he might be on the verge of actually jumping ship, because I don't know how much longer he's going to be able to tolerate this, like he said as well. Tomas has just been spiraling out. I forgot to mention that when he was chatting with Eva, she also asked how Puerto Rico went, because Kat was not able to go. And so Tomas was like, Puerto Rico was great. My family was very happy to see me, but they were surprised that Kat wasn't there. And so he had to do a lot of covering in that regard, because Eva was like, oh my God, like, how did they react to Kat turning down the proposal? And Tomas was like, I could not tell my mother that, because if I did, it would basically poison her against Kat forever. So Tomas had to lie about the situation. So, I mean, I can empathize with Tomas a little bit, but he caused some of these problems himself. He's dealing with Kat turning down the proposal. He should have never proposed, and they told him that. He's dealing with Naomi encroaching upon his space, but it just is what it is. It's just circumstantial, and he's handling that wrong. So I don't know how much longer Tomas is going to be at this firm, and I don't care if he leaves or not. But he was definitely sulking after Bill pretty much dismissed him in favor of Naomi. So back at the hospital office, Ted tells Nicole that Carlton has moved on, and he said you didn't think he'd be depressed, ruined, and all of that. Well, Nicole kind of thought that Carlton would be depressed and upset about, Nicole moving on, and Carlton's just like licking his wounds. And Ted's like, girl, please. And Nicole said, you must think I'm pretty full of myself. And Ted said, yes. Need I remind you that Carlton had a healthy and active social life before Nicole came into the mix. And Nicole was like, yeah, you're right. Like, what was I thinking? And she's happy that Carlton's getting himself out there. And Ted says, very good. And he heads out while Nicole is smirking. I know they are making the case for Nicole and Ted to get back together as well. And I'm sure eventually that is what will happen. But wrapping up. So, Kat talks to June and Izaiah about the purse being shot down. We're back at Orphe Jeans, and June is their server. And, they're just chatting about everything. And Izaiah is encouraging Kat. I mean, Izaiah is a genuinely good dude, but I don't like it. He's doing a good job, offering to help brainstorm things with Kat so she can figure it out. And so they're just chatting, and he's like, okay, so what words come to mind when you think of your mom other than Nicole and Nikki? And she's like, oh, hero. And he said, okay, that's a good one. They start discussing potential Black heroes that the bag could be named after, like Storm. That's a good one. Valkyrie, Vixen. And Kat was like, I know you don't think my mom is going to go for the bag being named Vixen after her latest escapades with these men. So they just keep keying and laughing about that. And this is when Eva walks into Orphe Jeans, and the look on her face is like, she is visibly concerned and agitated with this, while Izaiah and Kat just yuck it up at this table. Now, that is how today's episode ends. We already saw in the preview that Eva is definitely going to break this little Kiki up, and I agree, because now, I wonder what else we are going to see in tomorrow. I think something with Anita and her voice still being on the fritz, basically. I think she's going to be nervous about this album she's supposed to be doing with Devon and the other articulate. I don't know if this will involve Noah, because the other day she asked Noah to work with her. So maybe that'll be that. And I still want to see what's going on with Allison. We only got one quick shot of her the other day, and we have not seen Haley in a few days. Ooh, we're going to see that tomorrow. We're going to see Bill seeing Haley meet with Randy, but he's on the outside looking in through the blind. So I cannot wait for that. So that is basically what happened in today's episode. Thank you all for watching. If you like content like this, please like, comment, share, subscribe, do all of the things. I am here every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to do drama while I design live. And I'm also here on Sundays at 3 p.m. to break down The Bold and the Beautiful. So hopefully you will join me tomorrow and on Sunday. Look out for all of my other content about lifestyle, content creation, homeschooling, neurodivergent kids, all of the things. And I will see you guys the next time.